Fran, I heard you say Sunday that your guys executed a game plan about as well as any they ever have. In reviewing that, any explanations or just what made you say that?
Well, I said it because it was true. But, you know, they were really locked in, they were connected. There were certain things that we wanted to do that we did successfully. And we've talked about this before. Like a lot of times the best game plans turn out to be a disaster. You know, and it's not their fault, you know, it's our fault. We put a game plan together and it falls apart, you gotta make adjustments. You know, we just stayed locked in and executed well against a really good, very well-coached team on the road in a hostile environment. And that's what you have to be able to do in this league.
Is it sometimes easier to stay locked in on the road when you're together as a group like that?
Sometimes, yeah. You know, I think a lot of times it's a function of how you start on the road. You know, we started well, and that's important. Sometimes you don't start well on the road, you get behind and you're scrambling the rest of the day. But you know, we felt like with the intensity level of their defense, you got to move the ball, you got to screen and cut with a purpose. I mean, all the stuff we talk about all the time, but we did that, everybody. And then, you know, against a team that's really big like that, you have to rebound. We rebounded. And you have to go on the road and play against one of the top teams in the league and not turn the ball over. You know, we took care of the ball for the most part. We had a couple that we'd like to have back, but for the most part, you know, took care of the ball. So, and then you got to make shots. You know, and it always helps when you get a really good shooter going like we did with Peyton. He was tremendous.
It was a pretty scary moment for Connor at the end of the game. How's he feeling today?
He'll be fine. He's fine, yeah.
Filip played 40 minutes, and he's been close to 40 on several occasions, but this is not common for somebody his size. Does it affect him at all?
Well, I think your concern as a coach is, you know, does it affect him over time? And that's why we typically try to get him a little more rest. You know, with Josh out, we didn't have a lot of options there. You know, considered playing Riley a little bit, and we'll consider that moving forward. He's been much better in practice, so that's a possibility. I did play Carter Kingsbury for a couple minutes. He's proven that he's capable. Certainly was in the Wisconsin game. I felt like it was one of those games where immediate timeouts were coming, and I take a look at him, and he wasn't breathing hard. He was really, I think, going back to your original question, he was really locked in and focused, and I certainly don't think he wanted to come out. I would like to have got him a couple minutes here and there, maybe in both halves, keep him around 35, 36, but we just rode him the whole way.
I'm not sure if improved is the right word, but it's hard to think of another Big Ten player who's lifted his game more than Filip on both, and that's basically because he had to in a lot of ways.
Well, and I always say this, you know, it was in there. You know, he had already proven it at the collegiate level. He just didn't prove it in the Big Ten from an offensive standpoint. From a defensive and rebounding standpoint, from a execution and basketball IQ standpoint, he was terrific last year. There's no way we win 26 games without him in the starting lineup. So, you know, I just think going through the league and having another summer with us, another couple cycles in the weight room, just, you know, from his confidence and understanding of what this level is standpoint, he's got it figured out.
Fran, you have a veteran team who's, you know, they played together for more than a few years. Filip joins last year, gets his feet wet, but he really seems like he's emerged as one of the go-to leaders. Whenever he speaks, a lot of people have listened. How has he sort of earned that respect with this group?
Well, the only way you earn respect is by how hard you play. Now, at some level, you have to be somewhat productive. but you know, you can be a little less productive if you're a worker and you're a character guy every minute of every day, which he is. But he also, I think, has a real good sense, you know, when he's communicating at the 5 spot, that he's communicating accurate information. We talk about that all the time. You know, don't be out there running your mouth if you're not 100% sure what you're saying and the information you're giving to your teammates is what we want. You know, so he was good last year, but he was probably quieter as he's trying to figure out where he's supposed to go. You know, if you're going to tell everybody else where to go, you better know where you're supposed to go. Right? It's real simple. And you know, I've said this a million times, but Adam Woodbury was the best ever at that. None better, maybe in the history of basketball, at seeing action before and anticipating what they were doing and knowing the game plan inside and out and effectively communicating to his teammates and the effect that had on our ability to win. And you know, Phillips is like that right now, so it's great to see.
How would you assess Philip's passing ability?
Really good, and I think that's probably also, you know, when you look at his development in terms of confidence offensively in particular, everybody immediately assumes that's scoring, and he has scored, and he scored really well, but you know, picking and popping, pick and hit him on a short roll, and now have to make a play in traffic, make a quick read, where to go with the ball. He's been spectacular with that. And you know, sometimes you have big guys, you know, they set a screen, they roll to the front of the rim. That's it. Catch the ball, lay it in, or figure out who they're going to screen next. He's comfortable in the mid-range, in the low post, or out on the perimeter. He's put it over the deck. You know, you see him rebounding the ball, and outlets are jammed up. He just brings it, which is what I've been encouraging him to do since he got here. And it's great to see, because you know, no matter what, if you don't have the confidence, well, I mean, if your coach doesn't have confidence in you, you're probably not going to have confidence yourself. So I try to instill confidence in him and just tell him to trust his talent and go make plays, and that's what he's doing.
Looking at Michigan, obviously a lot of it starts with Hunter Dickinson, but what is your impression of just their front court as a whole and what challenges they present?
Well, they have a really good team. They've got some depth. I mean, there's a lot of different pieces that are fitting. You know, I think, you know, Jet Howard is one of the premier players in our league. I think we've seen that. I think Bufkin is a guy that he was pretty good last year. Now I think he's really taken a big step. You know, you got maybe a different point guard than they thought they were going to have at the start of the year, but he doesn't play like a freshman. A very aggressive mindset. And Williams is good. I mean, they got guys coming off the bench. You know, Terrace Reed is really good. And you get a guy like Joey Baker, transfer from Duke. You know, that's a piece that's really helpful with a team that, you know, has some new guys that they're trying to fit. They lost some guys last year that were integral parts of that team, but like you said, you know, it all starts with Dickinson. I mean, he's one of the best players in the game right now.
Fran, a lot of your colleagues in the Big Ten have been speaking out about officiating issues. Are you guys talking behind the scenes as a group, or
No.
Have you talked to anybody with the Big Ten or anything? Or have they reached out to you?
Well, those conversations are ongoing, you know, so you're going to have conversation with our supervisor of officials. That's his responsibility, and Terry does a terrific job of that. So that's all day, every day, across the board, and that's what his responsibility is, and he's really trying to get his arms around the job. This is his first year, and he's one of the best that ever did it when he was blowing the whistle. But there's a lot at stake, and there's a lot going on. And when you're in a league with so many good players and so many of these games are coming down to the wire, You know, there's gotta be more discussion. You know, if there's blowouts, nobody ever talks about the officiating, but they're not. And so, you know, somebody's upset about something, and he's the one who hears about it, but his job really is only one thing, and that is to provide quality officials, the best in the business, and make sure they're up to the standard that's set by the Big Ten. And I think he's done that. We've got the best officials out there. So you can complain if you want to, but you're not gonna get anybody that's any better because we're getting the best as it is.
Coach, Josh Ogunle and DeSante played together for 2 years at Worcester before DeSante went to Brewster. Did that help with recruiting at all, or did you see DeSante when you were recruiting Josh? And how is that kind of relationship between those two guys? How have you seen it grow this year?
Well, they're good buddies. They've always been good buddies. They both have great personalities. You know, that's a program that I have unbelievable respect for. The coaching staff, the entire institution, been up there a lot. We saw DeSante at a young age because the relationship that he had with Courtney Eldridge. You know, Courtney knew his dad, and you know, he took me to see him, and he played really well. And then I would go up there to see DeSante, and then saw Josh, and then, you know, others, you know, like TJ Power, who ended up going to Duke, but you know, we were recruiting him as well. Just, you know, a quality program. Jamie Sullivan does an unbelievable job.
Bloodlines are pretty common in your program. I'm talking about family bloodlines. Your son's Chris, his dad, etc. Well, what has Filip's dad, you think, done for Filip, with Filip's dad being a lifer in the game?
Well, he grew up in the gym, as you would have expected. You know, we've laughed at, you know, and talked about what it was like, you know, very intense for him. All coming from a great place, but very intense workouts as a young player, coming up through the system. As you know, in Europe, it's a completely different approach. University and sport are separate. You know, colleges don't have basketball teams. You either play for the professional team, or the club, it's called, or you go to school. And of course, sometimes people do both, but they're separate. So if you are participating for the club, then there's an expectation that it's, you know, this is serious, and we're training and we're playing, and that's how he was raised. So work ethic is not an issue that you would ever have to discuss with Filip Rebraca. If anything, you might tell him to get out of the gym one day and relax. And that's an expectation. It's not something that they bring up. You know, and so his dad played in the league for a long time. His dad didn't come over until he was, I think, in his late 20s. And still played 6 or 7 years, and has got a big job over there now in basketball. I enjoyed getting to know him through the recruiting process, and he's trusted us to coach his son, and that, you know, that's how it's done. We appreciate that. I appreciate Filip every day.
Listening to you describe his work ethic, it was kind of like you just described Luca's work ethic. Do you see a lot of similarities in how they approach it every day?
Yeah, and you know, Luca, as you know, would go over there in the summer sometime to visit family, and he'd be training that way when he's over there. Very similar, and just kind of zero maintenance in that respect. You know, you don't have to remind them, hey, you're getting shots up, hey, you're getting a lift in. You know, they just take care of their business and just keep grinding. And it's really a pleasure to coach guys like Filip.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having me.